Mysterious pyramids hidden for millennia in Indonesia. When you think of pyramids, you think of Egypt. The oldest pyramid in the world is in Egypt, or so we've been made to believe for the longest time. And now there's the question of how true has our history been? How true is the information we have come to know as the truth? For the longest time and up to date, the oldest pyramid has been traced back to around 2630 BC in Egypt, but that might be changing as scientists have come up with some very shocking claims. The Great Pyramid of Giza is famous to all. One of the few monuments at Egypt's Giza necropolis, it towers over the edge of the Western Desert and is arguably the most well-known. However, there is another much smaller pyramid that is decades older than any of the Giza pyramids, located about 10 miles south of the largest pyramid in the world. Most people agree that the Pyramid of Djoser, which is also spelled Zoser, is the oldest pyramid in existence. It was built around 2630 BC, while the Great Pyramid of Giza's construction started about 70 years earlier in 2560 BC. The Great Pyramid of Giza might not have existed if Djoser's construction at Saqqara hadn't taken place. There were quite literally many obstacles to overcome before architects could finish building the sharp-tipped monoliths that have come to be recognized as world wonders. Thus, the Pyramid of Djoser was once thought to be the oldest pyramid in the world. That is, until scientists made some startling discoveries and assertions. A group of scientists made the claim that the oldest pyramid isn't the Pyramid of Djoser, but in fact can be found in Indonesia, specifically an Indonesian mountain. Before we dive right into it, let's talk a bit about this Indonesian mountain, shall we? The first Europeans to find Gunung Padang in the early 20th century were Dutch colonists, who must have been astounded by the sheer size of their ancient stone surroundings. Here, spread across a wide hilltop in the Indonesian province of West Java, were the remains of a vast complex of rocky structures and monuments that have since been dubbed the largest megalithic site in all of Southeast Asia. But those early settlers had no way of knowing that the greatest wonder of all might be buried beneath their feet, deep within the earth. In Kiri Mukti Kampaka Cianjur Regency, West Java, Indonesia, a megalithic site known as Gunung Padang can be found. It is 8 kilometers or 5 miles from Lampangin Station and 30 kilometers or 19 miles southwest of the Regency seat. The site is built of earth and stone at the top of an extinct volcano. It is made up of a number of ruinous rectangular stone enclosures with interior partitions, walkways, and gate entrances, as well as different rock mounds. They are built from naturally occurring andesite or basaltic pillars or columnar blocks similar to those that were used to build the ancient city of Nan Madol in Micronesia. These blocks range in size from 25 to 40 centimeters in width and height and are typically 1.5 meters long and weigh about 250 kilograms. In reality, some blocks are much bigger and weigh more than 600 kilograms. I find that to be quite impressive if you ask me, but that isn't the end of this wonder. The various buildings are spread across 5 distinct terraces or courtyards, connected by ascending staircases identified by standing pillars in each one. These terraces have a surface area of roughly about 900 square meters and rise in steps to a height of about 960 meters above sea level. From the north-northwest, a 370-step ascending staircase that rises at nearly 45-degree angle provides access to these courtyards. This rises from the valley below, and it rises about 90 meters from its base to the highest terrace. On a volcanically formed hill formation with a north-northwest facing slope, each terrace is placed one in front of the other. Indeed, a number of geologists disagree with an assertion that these are the origins of andesite pillars used to construct the stone settings. The location was first referenced in Rapporten van die Oorhekendienst in 1914, ROD, Report of the Department of Antiquities. The Dutch historian N.J. Crom made reference to it once more in 1949. Still, it wasn't until 1979 that researchers from the National Archaeology Research Center thoroughly examined the history, archaeology, and geology of the area. According to conventional wisdom, the megalithic structures on Gunung Padang were built between 2500 and 1500 BC. During the Bronze Age, the monument may really be much older than previously thought, according to geological assessments made at the location since 2011 by Indonesian geologist Danny Hilman Natawijawa of the Indonesian Center of Geotechnical Research, who received his doctorate at Caltech. As a result of core drilling samples and other exploratory excavations, It has been determined that Gunung Padang is a multi-leveled structure with evidence of activity on the hill dating back to 22,000 to 20,000 BC, 14,700 BC, 9,600 BC, 4,700 BC, and 2800 BC, the last of which that corresponds to the age of the megalithic structures that are still visible today. In fact, Danny Hillman and his crew now think that the entire hill is a man-made pyramid with incredibly old roots. If true, this would make it the world's oldest structure ever erected. There might be some truth to that last statement, as just maybe this is truly the oldest structure. But with recent findings, this is not just any structure, as we might have assumed. Scientists believe that this is a pyramid, as I have earlier stated. But what really are these scientists saying? A group of Indonesian scientists presented data to support their contention that Gunung Padang is in fact the location of the world's oldest known pyramid-like structure at the AGU 2018 fall meeting in Washington, D.C. It is quite controversial since it already has been established that the oldest pyramid in the world is, in fact, the Pyramid of Djoser. But how true is this anyway? You might be finding yourself asking. Instead of being the hill that we typically think of Gunung Padang as being, or even older, their years-long research reveals that Gunung Padang is actually a layered collection of ancient structures with foundations that date back to 10,000 years. Our studies prove that this structure does not cover just the top, but also wraps around the slopes, covering about 15 hectares area at least, the authors write. The structures are not only superficial, but rooted into greater depth. The team asserts that Gunung Padang is not just a man-made structure, but rather a collection of layers that were built over a long period of prehistoric time using a range of surveying techniques, including ground penetration radar, seismic tomography, archaeological digs. Scientists believe that Gunung Padang in West Java, that there are a number of passageways and chambers that belonged to a 10,000-year-old pyramid. They think that Gunung Padang slopes cover at least 150,000 square meters of land and that its layers of rocks were created by humans. The exploration reveals that the building encompasses at least 15 hectares and extends beyond the top and around the slopes. The structures are not only surface level, but they are deeply anchored, according to scientists. It is a distinctive temple, says researcher Danny Hillman Natawijawa to Live Science. It is not like the topography in the area, which has been severely damaged. This seems to be extremely young. Basalt rock pillars at the very top frame step terraces, while other configurations of rock columns create walls, walkways, and spaces. They put the age of this layer anywhere between 3,000 and 3,500 years. The second layer of identical rock columns was found below the surface at a depth of around 10 feet, 3 meters, and was estimated to be between 7,500 and 8,300 years old, according to scientists. Additionally, a third layer, 49 feet, 15 meters, below the surface is older than 9,000 years and may perhaps be 28,000 years old. This would logically rewrite history as we currently know it and make this pyramid the oldest pyramid to have ever existed on Earth. But is that really the case? You may be wondering, what really was the purpose of this pyramid? Such an enormous structure, what could it have been used for? According to researchers who were led by geophysicist Danny Hillman Natawijawa from the Indonesian Institute of Sciences, the ancient pyramids maybe have served religious purposes. It is a unique temple, Natawijawa told Live Science. However, for now, this is only a speculative hypothesis. Nonetheless, if this turns out to be true, history would be rewritten because this is an important finding that could challenge ideas about what these prehistoric societies and civilizations were really capable of. Maybe prehistoric societies weren't as primitive as we've come to believe. Not everybody is convinced though. Natawijawa's research has sparked a lot of discussion on both domestically and internationally, with many skeptics and archaeologists criticizing the team's methodologies and findings. The most recent research presentations, which have not yet undergone peer review, are likely to stoke the fire while also illuminating what may be one of the oldest and most enigmatic structures on the planet. As for what that structure really is, only time can truly tell, right? Whether this structure is truly the oldest pyramid or not one thing is certain. Prehistoric civilizations were more advanced than we have ever believed them to be. And to me, this is very, very interesting. Tell me, what are your thoughts? Feel free to leave them below in the comments.